Have you ever walked out of a doctor's office after a blood test, feeling a little bit of that nagging worry? That quiet thought in the back of your mind, wondering if the numbers will come back okay? Or maybe you've gotten results that just didn't make sense. Results that were suddenly worse than they've ever been, leaving you and your doctors scratching your heads. It's a frustrating feeling, and for many of us later in life, it's not just frustrating. It can be downright scary. Because these tests, these numbers on a page, they become so important. They guide our medications, they monitor our hearts, our kidneys, our sugar levels. Our doctors use them like a roadmap for our health. But what if I told you that the roadmap could be wrong? Not because of the lab and not because of your doctor, but because of a few simple, everyday things you might have done in the hours before that test. The truth is, some of our most common habits can quietly sabotage those results, making them look worse or sometimes even better than they truly are. And when that happens, decisions might be made based on a picture that isn't real. After spending years talking with and learning from some of the best heart specialists, I've learned that what you do before the test is just as important as getting the test itself. This isn't about tricking the test. It's about making sure it tells the truth. It's about giving your doctor the clearest, most accurate snapshot of your health, so you both can make the best choices for your well-being. Today we're going to talk about 5 things you must never do before a blood test, especially if you're being monitored for your heart. These are the things most heart specialists wish every senior knew. They're simple to avoid, but ignoring them can lead to months of unnecessary worry, extra appointments, and sometimes treatments you might not even need. Let's start with the first one, and it's a habit so many of us cherish: drinking coffee or tea before your test. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's just a cup of coffee. What harm could it possibly do? It feels like such a natural part of the morning, especially when you have to get up early for an appointment. But that cup of coffee or tea, even if it's black with no sugar, is anything but just water. Coffee and tea contain caffeine and other natural compounds that act like a little alarm clock for your whole system. They can temporarily raise your blood pressure, speed up your heart rate, and even cause shifts in your hormone levels. More importantly, for your blood test, they can affect your blood sugar readings and sometimes even your cholesterol numbers. Your body's reaction to that caffeine can create subtle changes that might be just enough to push a number from the normal range into the caution zone. I remember a gentleman named Robert. He was 74, and he went in for a routine checkup with his heart specialist. He had his usual strong black coffee that morning, just like he did every day for 50 years. When his results came back, his fasting blood sugar was surprisingly high, and his heart rate was elevated. His doctor was concerned, of course, and ordered more tests. Robert spent the next few weeks anxious, waiting for more appointments, worrying about what this could mean. When they finally repeated the blood work, this time without the morning coffee, everything came back perfectly normal. All that stress, all that worry was over a cup of coffee. Those unnecessary weeks of anxiety could have been avoided with one simple change. The reason is that caffeine stimulates your adrenal glands, which release stress hormones like cortisol. This can influence your body's metabolism and skew results that depend on a true, resting, fasting state. So when the instructions say to have nothing but water before your test, it's not a suggestion. It's there for a very important reason. Think of it as an investment in your own peace of mind. That one cup can wait an hour or two, but the stress of a false alarm can last for days. Now let's move on to the second thing you should avoid, and this one is just as common: taking your morning medications without guidance. For so many of us, taking our pills first thing in the morning is a deeply ingrained routine. We do it almost without thinking, often with just a sip of water before we've even had breakfast. It's a habit born out of responsibility, out of wanting to stay on top of our health. But before a blood test, especially one that's checking your fasting levels or how well your organs are functioning, taking your medication without asking your doctor can paint a very misleading picture. Certain drugs, including common heart medications, water pills, or even over-the-counter supplements, can temporarily alter your electrolyte balance, your blood sugar, and other crucial markers. In some cases, they can hide a problem that should be seen, or worse, make a perfectly healthy number look dangerously abnormal. I once spoke with a lovely woman named Carol. She was 78, and she was on a diuretic, a water pill, to help with a little fluid retention. The morning of her fasting blood test, she took it as she always did. When her results came in, her potassium levels were alarmingly low, and her kidney function looked like it had taken a sudden downturn. This led to a flurry of extra doctor's appointments, a lot of worry, and even a discussion about changing her medications. It was only later that she mentioned to her doctor that she had taken her diuretic before the test. They redid the blood work under the right conditions, and her numbers were right back where they should be. All that fuss was for nothing. This isn't about skipping your medicine. Never ever do that without your doctor's direct instruction. It's about timing. Some medications are perfectly fine to take before a test. Others should be held until after your blood is drawn. Your doctor or your pharmacist is the only one who can tell you which is which for your specific situation. The safest thing to do is to call them a few days before your appointment. Bring a list of everything you take, including vitamins and herbal supplements, and let them guide you. Your test results are a snapshot of your health at that very moment. Making sure that snapshot is clear and accurate is one of the simplest ways to protect yourself from unnecessary worry. Now, these first 2 points are so important because they set the stage for everything else. They ensure that when that needle goes in, the story your blood tells is the true story of your health, not a story distorted by a morning habit. And there's more to this story, including a common mistake people make with breakfast and one that has to do with our favorite evening wind-down routine. But we'll get into those next time. If you're finding this helpful, if it's making you think about your own routines, please do let me know down in the comments. Your experiences and thoughts are so valuable, and they help everyone in our community learn together. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you don't miss what comes next. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care of yourself, and here's to your health.
Now, we've already talked about how that morning cup of coffee and your regular medications can quietly change your blood test results without you even realizing it. These are the habits that feel so routine, we don't give them a second thought. But the next thing I want to discuss is perhaps the most common misunderstanding of all when it comes to preparing for a blood test. It's all about what we think fasting really means. You see, for many of us, the word fasting might bring to images of going without food for a very long time. So when the doctor says fast before your test, we might think, well, I'll just have something light. That can't hurt. Maybe a piece of toast, a small bowl of cereal, or a glass of juice to tide you over until you get to the clinic. It feels sensible, even healthy. But the truth is, if your test requires a true fast, even a small meal can completely throw off the results in ways that surprise everyone. Eating a heavy breakfast or even a light one, especially with sugary or fatty foods, sends your body into processing mode. Your digestive system gets to work breaking that food down into glucose and fats that then circulate through your bloodstream. This can lead to inaccurate and often alarmingly high readings for your blood sugar, your cholesterol, and especially your triglycerides. These aren't just random numbers. Your doctor uses them to assess your very real risk for heart disease, diabetes, and other serious conditions. So having them look wrong isn't just a small error, it's a big deal. I remember a story about a man named Harold. He was 74 and went in for his annual checkup. He knew he was supposed to fast, but he thought a couple of slices of toast with jam and a glass of orange juice wouldn't really count. It was just a little something. When his results came back, his triglyceride levels were through the roof, almost double what they normally were, and his blood sugar was elevated. His doctor was genuinely concerned and started talking about new medications and stricter diets. It was only when Harold, feeling a bit embarrassed, mentioned his small breakfast that the picture became clear. They repeated the test a week later after a proper fast, and his numbers had returned to their normal, manageable range. He had put himself through that fear and anxiety for nothing. The reason this happens is that your body needs time to clear those nutrients from your blood. A true fast, meaning nothing but water for usually 8 to 12 hours beforehand, gives your doctor a clean baseline reading of your body at rest. It's like trying to take a clear photograph of a still lake. You wouldn't throw a rock in the water right before you snap the picture. For those of us over 60, this consistency is everything. Our doctors are watching for tiny, subtle changes from year to year. They need that clear, still lake to see the real picture. So, if your test requires fasting, please stick to plain water. It's a few hours of hunger that can save you from months of unnecessary worry. Now, let's talk about something that might seem completely counterintuitive. We all know that staying active is one of the absolute best things we can do for our health as we age. It keeps our heart strong, our muscles working, and our minds sharp. But timing is everything. And engaging in strenuous exercise right before a blood test is another thing you must avoid. You might think that going for your usual brisk walk or morning swim before your appointment will show your doctor how active and healthy you are. But in reality, a good workout right before a blood draw can temporarily change your body chemistry in ways that look like something is wrong. When you exercise hard, your muscles naturally release enzymes and other substances like creatine kinase and lactic acid into your bloodstream. This is a normal response to exertion. However, to a doctor reading your results, a spike in an enzyme like creatine kinase can look like a sign of heart or muscle damage. It can also mess with your electrolyte balance and even your blood sugar levels. A perfect example is a woman named Louise. She was 68 and incredibly proud of her fitness routine. Every morning without fail, she went for a powerful 2-mile walk. On the day of her important cholesterol and blood sugar test, she did her walk as usual, feeling energized and ready to take on the day. But her blood test told a confusing story. Her potassium levels were a little high, and her blood sugar was lower than expected. Her doctor, being thorough, ordered follow-up tests to investigate potential kidney or metabolic issues. This led to a week of anxiety for Louise until she happened to mention her morning routine. Once they understood the connection, they retested after a morning of rest, and her results were perfectly normal. Her healthy habit had accidentally created a health scare. This doesn't mean you should stop exercising, not at all. It just means that on the morning of your blood test, you should press pause on your strenuous activity. Save your walk, your swim, or your weights for after your blood has been drawn. Instead, focus on gentle movements if you need to, some light stretching or a casual stroll around the house. Think of it as giving your body a quiet morning so it can give your doctor an honest report. It's a simple adjustment that protects the accuracy of your results and saves you from the stress of confusing findings and follow-up tests. We've covered a lot of ground together, from your morning cup to your morning walk. But there's one more common evening habit that has a surprisingly powerful effect on your blood work, and it's one that many people never even think to connect. If you're finding this helpful and it's making you think about your own routine before a doctor's visit, please do let me know in the comments below. I love reading your stories and questions. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss the final. It truly helps us out. Thank you for watching, and take good care. So far, we've walked through how our morning routines, what we drink, the medications we take, what we eat, and even how we move can quietly change the story our blood tells the doctor. But there's one more thing. And it's a habit that happens not in the busy morning, but in the quiet of the evening before. It's something many of us enjoy to unwind, to socialize, or just to mark the end of the day. And that's having a drink.
Now, a glass of wine with dinner or a cold beer while watching the evening news might feel like a small, harmless pleasure. And in moderation, for many people, it often is. But the night before a blood test? That same drink can be the biggest saboteur of them all, throwing your results off in ways you would never expect. You see, alcohol, even in modest amounts, is something your body sees as a toxin. It's a substance that your liver has to work hard to process and clear out of your system. And while it's doing that job, it creates changes, sometimes dramatic ones, in your blood chemistry. It can cause a sharp, temporary spike in your liver enzyme levels. It can send your triglycerides soaring, and it can play havoc with your blood sugar, sometimes causing it to drop too low or swing unpredictably. For anyone, but especially for heart patients or those being monitored for liver or metabolic health, these markers are absolutely critical. They're key signs your doctor uses to understand how your body is functioning. A sudden, unexplained jump in a liver enzyme reading can make your doctor suspect a problem that simply isn't there. I think of a gentleman also named Harold. He was 74 and generally in good health. The night before his routine blood panel, he had a couple of beers at a family barbecue. It was a normal, happy evening, but when his results came back, his doctor was concerned. His triglyceride levels were noticeably high, and his liver enzyme levels had practically doubled since his last test. This was enough to trigger a recommendation for further tests, even an ultrasound, to rule out liver disease. Harold spent weeks worried and anxious, only to discover on a follow-up test, after he'd avoided alcohol for a few days, that his numbers had completely returned to normal. All that stress was caused by a couple of beers on a single evening. Beyond the numbers, alcohol also dehydrates you. It pulls water out of your system, which can make your veins less plump and a little harder to find, sometimes making the blood draw itself more uncomfortable than it needs to be. So, if you have a blood test scheduled, the safest and smartest choice is to skip any alcohol for at least 24 hours beforehand. Think of it as giving your liver the night off, so it can give your doctor a clean, honest report the next morning. It's a simple evening without a drink that can save you from confusion, repeat testing, and the kind of anxiety that no one needs. And that really brings us to the heart of all this. When you look at these 5 things together, the coffee, the medications, the food, the exercise, and the alcohol, a common theme emerges. It's all about giving your body a quiet, normal, resting state before that snapshot is taken. Our health, especially as we get a little older, is precious, and managing it well shouldn't be made harder by unnecessary bumps in the road. These blood tests are meant to be our guides, or tools for making smart decisions, but they can only guide us well if the information they contain is true. A false alarm on a test isn't just a momentary scare. It can lead to a cascade of worry, more appointments, and sometimes even medications or procedures that you never needed in the first place. The goal here isn't to make your life more restrictive or to take away the small pleasures you enjoy. It's the exact opposite. It's about empowerment. It's about giving you the knowledge to make sure that when you and your doctor sit down to look at those results, you're both looking at a clear, accurate, and true picture of your health, not a picture distorted by a habit you didn't know could have an effect. You have the power to make sure that roadmap is accurate. By being mindful of these 5 things in the hours before your test, you are taking a proactive, powerful step in your own healthcare. You're advocating for your own peace of mind. You're choosing to avoid needless complications and to embrace clarity. So the next time you see that blood test appointment on your calendar, I hope you'll think of it not as another medical chore, but as an opportunity. An opportunity to partner with your doctor from a place of strength and accuracy. Remember, small, thoughtful preparations can make all the difference between a journey filled with worry and one guided by confidence and truth. Thank you so much for joining me for this important conversation. I'd love to hear from you now. Was there one thing that surprised you the most? Or maybe you have a story of your own to share about a time your results were confusing. Please leave a comment below and let's talk about it. Your experiences help all of us learn. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up. It really does support the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and tapping that bell so you don't miss our next conversation. We're here to share information that helps you live your healthiest, happiest life. Thank you for watching, take good care of yourself, and here's to your health.